The plate shattered before I even said a word. Not because I threw it. I wasn't angry, not yet. It just slipped. Wet fingers, shaky hands. I had spent 30 minutes reheating her leftover curry and arranging it like it was made fresh. I even sprinkled parsley on top. The kind of useless detail you do when you're desperate to matter again. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, still wearing that coat she never actually buttoned. Her expression didn't change when the plate hit the floor. No gasp, no flinch, just a blink, slow and tired. "You're not seriously trying again," she muttered. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even sarcasm. It was boredom. That's what killed me. I crouched down, picking up shards with a napkin, and whispered, not to her, maybe just to the silence. "I thought maybe you were hungry." "I'm not," she said, stepping over the mess without looking. "I'm going upstairs. Don't follow me." She didn't walk past me. She walked through me, like I was steam from the rice. I stood there, napkin in one hand, blood starting to show through from where a piece had cut me, and I said quietly, "Can we talk later?" And that's when it happened. She turned halfway up the stairs, not angry, just tired, and said it. "Don't touch me right now." No yelling. No eye contact. Just that. I didn't answer. I didn't nod. I didn't breathe. Instead, I took off my wedding ring. Not in a dramatic, slow-motion way. I just pulled it off like it was bothering me, like it itched, and placed it on the counter next to the mail she hadn't opened in days. Then I walked over to the coat rack, took down the gray windbreaker I hadn't worn since her birthday, and left the house. No shoes. No wallet. Just me. I walked past the lawn she once begged me to mow straight. Past the trash bins I always rolled back in before she could complain. Past the neighbor's cat, who liked me more than she did. And I kept walking. 2 hours later, I was sitting barefoot on a park bench, holding a receipt from our third date I'd kept in my wallet for a decade. The ink had faded. Like us. Like everything. She didn't text. She didn't call. She didn't care. But someone else did. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. The park bench was splintered and cold, but I stayed there until dawn cracked the sky open like a wound. At some point, a dog walked up and sniffed my feet. No leash, no owner in sight. It stayed with me for a while, laid its head on my knee, and then wandered off, probably saw I wasn't worth guarding. By morning, I finally got up and started walking again. Not home. Never home. Just anywhere else. I ended up in front of a small 24-hour diner 2 towns over. It smelled like burnt coffee and broken promises. I went in, sat at the counter, and realized I had nothing. No phone. No ID. No money. I looked pathetic enough that the waitress, she had a name tag that said Jill in all caps, slid me a black coffee and didn't ask questions. I tried to thank her, but the words got caught somewhere between guilt and embarrassment. I sat there for maybe an hour, staring at the mug. Not drinking. Just holding it because it was warm and nothing else in my life was. The diner radio was playing some slow 80s song that used to make Miranda cry. Funny how a song can feel more honest than your wife ever did. Then the bell above the door jingled, and someone walked in wearing a navy coat, same color as Miranda's. My heart jumped before my brain caught up. It wasn't her. Just a guy. But in that moment, I realized I still expected her to come looking for me. Like some desperate part of me believed she'd realize I was gone and that it meant something. Spoiler, she didn't. What she did do, though, was worse. When I finally convinced myself to return, not to talk, not to stay, just to grab my stuff and disappear properly, it was almost noon. I borrowed a tin from a stranger outside the diner to catch a bus. I walked back to the house from the stop, slowly, dreading every step. And when I got there, I stood across the street for 10 minutes, just staring at it. Our house. Her house now. The front door was wide open. I crossed the street quickly. Not out of panic. I don't think I had adrenaline left in me. Just curiosity. Why would she leave it open? She's the type who checks if the stove's off 3 times before bed. I stepped inside. No yelling. No, where have you been? Just silence. But there was something new. Something sitting on the table where my ring had been. A plain white envelope. No name. No seal. Just a single sheet of printer paper folded neatly inside. I unfolded it. One sentence. If you're going to leave, do it completely. I sat down in the chair across from it and read it again. And again. My throat dried. My chest burned. It wasn't just cold. It was final. No apology. No explanation. No emotion. She knew I had come back. She anticipated it. And she left that message not as a plea, but as a command. I should have left right then and there. But curiosity? That's a disease. And I had it bad. I went upstairs. Her perfume lingered in the hall. One of her heels was tipped over near the bedroom. The bed wasn't made, unusual for her. But it wasn't the bed that stopped me. It was the second phone charging by her mirror. I had never seen that one before. And I don't know what force possessed me, maybe months of being ignored, maybe that dead tone in her voice, maybe that damn note. But I picked it up and unlocked it with the simplest guess, 0311. Her late mother's birthday. It opened instantly. And what I found inside made my knees buckle. Photos, videos, locations, texts, names I recognized. Some I didn't. Miranda had a whole second life, and I was never invited. And the worst part? She was smiling in every picture. Smiling in ways I hadn't seen since that stupid peach in the grocery store. I should have thrown the phone. That's what they do in movies, right? Smash it. Scream. Rage. But I didn't. I just stared at the screen as my hands started shaking. Miranda's face looked different in those photos, softer, brighter, younger. Like a version of her that had been hidden away from me. There was a picture of her laughing in someone's lap, wearing a red scarf I'd never seen before. I zoomed in on her face. That smile, it wasn't fake. She wasn't performing. She was free. There were 8 videos saved to the gallery. I didn't open the first few. Just skimmed through the thumbnails like they were knives I wasn't ready to touch yet. The 6th one, though, that one had a timestamp from the weekend she was supposedly at a wellness retreat. I remember that trip because I had packed her bag while she rushed to a last-minute Zoom meeting. She told me not to forget her charcoal face masks. They were still in the drawer. She hadn't even taken them. I pressed play. Big mistake. The camera was tilted slightly sideways, but I could see enough. She was sitting at a hotel desk, sipping wine straight from the bottle, still wearing the red scarf. There was a man's voice off camera, deep, confident, too familiar. Then she turned to him, laughing. He still thinks I'm at a spa. Bless his little heart. I paused the video, sat back, covered my mouth. It wasn't just betrayal. It was mockery. Pity. I didn't even know how long I sat there before I realized I was still holding the phone like it might burn me. And yet, I couldn't stop watching. I played the last video. It was shot in a car. Nighttime. Miranda was kissing someone who wasn't me, while the man driving laughed about almost missing an exit. That voice. That laugh. I couldn't place it right away. But it was American. Deep. Friendly. The kind of voice people trusted. Then he said something that cracked everything wide open. You think Dennis suspects anything? My name. My actual name. Said so casually. So confidently. Miranda didn't hesitate. Just shook her head and replied, Dennis doesn't see what's right in front of him. He's too busy buying me candles and begging for closeness. Poor guy still thinks I'm tired. The phone slid out of my hand and hit the carpet. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there. And for the first time in months, I saw the bedroom for what it was, a museum of lies. Every framed photo, every unwashed mug, every throw pillow she picked out for balance. It all meant nothing now. All those nights I sat beside her, quiet, hopeful, offering touch she wouldn't take, she was living somewhere else, emotionally and physically. And then something else happened. I heard the front door open. Not loudly. Just enough to send a tremor down my spine. I didn't even think. I grabbed the phone and slipped into the guest room, quietly shutting the door behind me. I pressed my ear to the wall. I could hear her footsteps. Heels. Not flats. She never wore heels at home. Then I heard it. Laughter. Not hers. A man's voice. I told you I'd help you clean up your mess, he said. I froze. Help her clean up. Me? I pressed record on my own phone, set it on the bed, and kept listening. Their voices were getting closer. Louder. Then I heard her whisper. If he came back, we stick to the plan. Plan? They were planning something. My ears rang. My heart pounded. I picked up the phone I'd found, her second one, and slipped it into my back pocket. Then I did the stupidest, smartest thing I could have done. I climbed out the guest room window and ran. Barefoot. Shaking. No wallet. No plan. But I knew one thing. They weren't just cheating. They were hiding something much darker. And for the first time, I wasn't going to ignore it. I didn't stop running until my feet bled. There's something surreal about feeling concrete tear at your skin while your brain tries to calculate whether your wife and some unknown man were just talking about throwing you out, or something worse. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't be inside that house another second. It no longer felt like a home. It felt like a trap. A place where they could shape the story however they wanted once I disappeared again, or worse, if I didn't. Eventually, I ducked behind a laundromat. My breathing was so loud I thought someone might hear it from the next block. I sat on a crate, tried to focus. Think, Dennis. Think. I had her secret phone. I had recordings. I had names, videos, locations. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. This was real. And I was finally awake. Once my heart stopped trying to punch through my ribs, I checked the phone again. I hadn't noticed it before, but she had a secure folder protected by a separate passcode. My hands were trembling as I tried combinations, birthdays, pet names, even her favorite author. Nothing worked. But then I remembered something from a week ago. She'd made a joke over dinner. Well, she was joking with someone over text while I silently ate beside her, and she'd said, "Nobody ever guesses my code. It's just my initials backward." Her full name? Miranda Eliza Thompson. So I typed in, TMM. The folder opened. Inside were screenshots. Dozens of them. Banking apps. Transfer confirmations. PDFs. Some were labeled with my name. Others had dates that didn't make sense, months ago, while we were supposedly saving for a cabin getaway. It looked like she had slowly been draining our joint accounts, quietly, methodically, transferring just enough to avoid suspicion. There were even transfers from my personal retirement account. That one stopped me cold. I didn't even know she had the access for that. But she did. And it got worse. There was a document called Rental Contract, Midtown Storage Unit. The name on the contract wasn't hers. It was under a company I'd never heard of, Albright and Mason Logistics. But the signature was hers. She had signed under an alias. She was renting a storage unit 2 towns away and paying for it using a side account I never knew existed. Why? I screen recorded everything, made copies, and uploaded the data to a cloud folder I created right then under a fake name. I wasn't just scared anymore, I was paranoid. Then, one line from the file stopped me completely. Paper copies to be burned once scanned. Key kept by R. Burned? I didn't know what R stood for, but I had a feeling I'd just seen him in my house, walking across my floors, probably smiling while I was huddled behind a wall like a forgotten ghost. I suddenly remembered something odd. As I slipped out the window, I'd heard him say, "Lock it behind me." Not, "I'll lock it," but "Lock it behind me." He had a key to my house. My mouth went dry. This wasn't just an affair. This was a setup. And that meant going back wasn't an option anymore. Not unless I wanted to walk into something I couldn't walk out of again. So I did what any desperate man with no plan would do. I called the only person who still picked up when I reached out, my cousin Brian. He answered on the second ring, voice groggy. "Dude, it's not even 8 a.m. I didn't even say hello. Just said, "I need to crash at your place. I have something serious to show you. And I think someone's trying to erase me." That woke him up fast. 20 minutes later, I was in the passenger seat of his beat-up Jeep, still barefoot, still bleeding. He didn't ask much. Just looked at me once and said, "You look like you died 2 days ago." When we got to his apartment, I told him everything slowly, piece by piece. He didn't interrupt. Not once. When I showed him the phone and the files, he leaned back, hands folded behind his head, and said, "Dude, she's not just cheating. She's building an escape hatch. And you're not invited." And then he said something else, something that made my stomach turn. "You think she's waiting until you're out of the way to file a missing person report? Or to claim your accounts?" I laughed at first. A sad, broken laugh. But deep down, I already knew the answer. Brian's living room smelled like old leather and microwaved burritos, but it was the safest place I'd been in weeks. He threw me a pair of his gym shorts and a faded concert t-shirt, and as I changed, he said, "I'm just gonna say it. This isn't just some messy divorce waiting to happen. This feels like a trapdoor you barely crawled out of." He wasn't wrong. For the next 2 hours, we combed through Miranda's secret phone together. Every app, every folder, every line of text. Brian was more methodical than me, probably because I kept freezing every time I saw a familiar name tied to something rotten. One of the more gut-punching moments came when I found a saved voicemail from my former business partner, Eli, a guy I had once trusted like a brother. His voice was slow, slurred like he was drinking, but unmistakable. "Tell him after the account clears. Not before. He still thinks I'm helping him rebuild that website, and I'd prefer to keep him thinking that, at least till we're all square." I didn't even remember giving Eli access to any financial tools. But I had. during the pandemic, when things were falling apart and I needed help. That means Miranda and Eli were both dipping into my personal accounts, behind my back, while I was losing clients and barely affording rent. They'd taken tens of thousands. I sat on the edge of Brian's couch, the weight of it all pushing down hard, and said quietly, "She wasn't cheating on me with one guy, Brian. She was cheating on me with my entire life." That night, I couldn't sleep again. My body was finally still, but my mind was clawing at every detail. Around 3 a.m., I grabbed a flashlight and Miranda's hidden phone and scrolled back to that document, the storage unit rental. Something was bothering me about it. The address, the company name. It felt fake or staged. So I looked it up. Albright and Mason Logistics didn't exist. Not legally. No LLC registration. No Google listing. The only reference I found was a buried post on a legal discussion forum from 4 years ago, where someone asked if using fake business names for private property leases could be prosecuted as fraud. No responses. That meant this storage unit wasn't just a place to keep old wedding photos or boxes of junk. This was a ghost lockbox, a place Miranda was intentionally hiding from the world. And that made me need to see it in person, no matter how stupid that was. So the next morning, Brian drove me out to Midtown. The place didn't look like much, just another long row of roll-up doors and barbed wire fences. But when I checked the address on the paper against the row numbers on the units, I noticed something weird right away. There was no unit 1126. There was 1125. There was 1127. But the space where 1126 should have been? Nothing. Just a blank metal wall, painted the same as the rest, but with no door. No number. Not even a lock. I looked at Brian. "Is it a typo?" He shook his head. "Or it's exactly what she wanted you to think." We circled the perimeter. I found a small service gate around the back, the kind maintenance crews use when they don't want to alert management. The chain was looped loosely through the handles, not locked, just tied. Almost like someone expected to come and go without notice. Once we were inside, it took less than a minute for Brian to spot it, a section of the wall that sounded hollow when tapped. Not metal, plywood, painted over. He stepped back. "Dude, she's hiding something behind this wall." I took a deep breath and pried it back slowly. Behind the board was a crawl space no wider than a closet. It was damp, dusty, and stacked with 3 things: a safe, a black duffel bag, and a box labeled archive. I opened the duffel first. Inside, cash, stacks of it, bound in thick rubber bands. Not new bills, not bank sealed, just collected. The archive box held documents. Some were old, tax forms from years ago, my social security copy, even one of my pay stubs from before I started freelancing. And tucked near the bottom was a printed screenshot of my driver's license. Only it wasn't mine. It had my name, my birthday, but not my face. Brian said what I couldn't. "She's trying to build a shadow identity with your info." It wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was impersonation. This was legal war. I looked at the final item, the safe. There was a note taped to the top. "Don't open unless it's really over." I stared at it. Then I opened it anyway. Inside, there wasn't money, or jewelry, or anything valuable in a traditional sense. There were photos. Miranda, the man with the keys. Another man, one I'd never seen before, shaking hands with both of them outside a courthouse. One of the photos had a date scribbled on the back. Next Friday. It hadn't happened yet. Whatever they were planning, whatever she had set in motion, wasn't over. It was about to begin. That photo haunted me. I held it under the flickering lights of the storage hallway, staring at the man on the right, bald, clean-cut, wearing a suit that looked too precise to be casual. He wasn't family. He wasn't someone from Miranda's old life. I would have remembered him. No, this guy looked official. Cold. Like someone who knew how to move pieces on a board without ever touching them. The kind of man you only meet when you're already in trouble. And the courthouse in the background. It wasn't local. I zoomed in on a plaque near the stairs. Hall of Civil Proceedings, 6th District. That was 2 counties over. A place neither of us had reason to visit unless we were filing something we didn't want easily traced. My stomach turned. Next Friday. That's what the scribbled date said. Meaning whatever this was, it hadn't gone through yet. Which meant I still had time. Time for what, though? I had no clue. I just knew I wasn't about to be erased from my own life without even knowing what I was accused of. Brian and I didn't talk much on the ride back. He kept glancing at the duffel of cash like it might explode. I was too deep in my head, thinking about how far this had already gone. This wasn't just infidelity or even a divorce in motion. It was premeditated identity theft, financial sabotage, a coordinated dismantling of me as a person. And I'd almost missed it. All of it. Because I was too busy apologizing for not being exciting. Too busy blaming myself for her distance, for the cold shoulders, the fake headaches, the disinterest, the emotional starvation. When we got back to his place, I laid everything out on the floor like evidence at a crime scene. Miranda's burner phone, the photos, the fake storage lease, the cash, the note taped to the safe. It looked like something out of a courtroom drama. Except it was my life. My real, bleeding, rapidly unraveling life. Brian finally broke the silence. You need to show this to someone. Like a lawyer. Or, hell, man, a reporter. I shook my head. Not yet. If I move too soon, she'll know I know. And if she's willing to go this far, I don't know what she'll do when she gets scared. He nodded slowly, but I could see it in his eyes. He thought I was already in too deep. That maybe it didn't matter what I did now. That night, I slept in short bursts. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Not the Miranda I married, but the one in those hidden videos, carefree, confident, practically glowing while she dismantled everything I thought we built. The worst part? She looked happy. Genuinely happy. As if freedom wasn't found in leaving me, but in destroying me. The next morning, I called in a favor. I had an old acquaintance from college, Shelley Grant. She'd gone into private investigation after a messy divorce that left her half broke but twice as smart. We hadn't spoken in years, but when I texted her and said I needed help confirming whether a courthouse meeting was scheduled under my name in the 6th District on Friday, she replied in under 2 minutes, "Send me the names. I'll run it. Don't do anything stupid." By noon, she called. "There's a sealed appointment under your legal name. It's not a divorce filing. It's power of attorney registration. For a trust account." My blood went ice cold. A trust. Yeah, she said. It's weird. Looks like someone's trying to legally place your finances into a managed holding account, with you technically still listed, but someone else assigned administrative control. I've only seen it done twice. Once for an elderly client who was losing mental capacity, and once in a corporate laundering case. I nearly dropped the phone. So I'm being declared unfit? Not in those exact words, she said carefully. But if this goes through, she could legally move every asset you've ever touched into a structure she controls. And unless you fight it preemptively, you'll spend months trying to unravel it, if you even can. I sat there, silent. Shelley's voice softened. Dennis, I don't say this lightly. You're not being left. You're being replaced. That sentence shattered something in me. I thanked her, hung up, and stared out the window for what felt like an hour. Then I made my next move. I drove to the bank where Miranda and I had opened our joint accounts. I waited in line, palm sweaty, and when I finally got to the counter, I asked quietly for a printout of every transaction over the past 6 months. The clerk frowned, tapped a few keys, then paused. There's been a security hold placed on this account. Access flagged. You'll need to speak to the manager. When the manager came over, I repeated my request. He gave me the same line, polite, robotic, and then handed me a form to fill out for review. I looked at the bottom corner of the page and saw it. Authorization code, MRT 2139. MRT. Miranda Rachel Thompson. She had already flagged me out of my own finances. Preemptively. Before anything went through. This was no longer about betrayal. This was a hostile takeover. By the time Thursday rolled around, I couldn't tell whether I was paranoid or the only one seeing clearly. I hadn't heard from Miranda. Not a single text. Not a "where are you?" or "we need to talk," or even one of her cold one-word replies. Nothing. It was like my disappearance had been pre-cleared. Like she expected it, planned for it, and had no need to chase down what was already discarded. But I wasn't out of moves. Not yet. That morning, Shelley called again. I tracked the man in the photo. The one with Miranda and the other guy at the courthouse. I stood up so fast I knocked over Brian's kitchen stool. Who is he? Raymond Ulrich. He used to work for a company that specialized in inheritance fraud cleanup, basically helped wealthy families quietly reroute assets. Got disbarred 5 years ago for falsifying health evaluations. Real sleaze. And now he's helping Miranda make me legally disappear? She sighed. I can't prove it yet. But the signature on the trust paperwork you showed me? It matches Ulrich's handwriting from his old firm filings. He's not just advising her, he's setting the whole thing up. A dull pounding started in the back of my head. Shelley wasn't finished. Also, the man in the second photo, the one laughing with Miranda in the car? He's registered to a black BMW with corporate plates. I traced the vehicle. It's leased to a property management firm that Miranda's name is loosely tied to. You're saying she's laundering money through fake business names and ghost property accounts? I'm saying she's smarter than you gave her credit for, Shelley said gently. And she's already built the next phase of her life, one that doesn't include you, except on paper. After the call, I stared at the wall for what felt like an hour. Then I stood up, grabbed the bag of evidence I'd gathered, and zipped it into a new duffel. I needed one final move, one unpredictable, off-script card to play before Friday hit, and everything was beyond saving. That's when I remembered something Miranda had said a few months ago. I had come home early from a client call, and she had looked startled. She quickly stuffed something into her purse and said, "It's just lease stuff for the firm. I meet Ray once a month. He signs off on liability clauses. Real estate stuff. Boring." She said, "Once a month." Like it was routine. And just like that, a plan started to form. If she was still meeting him regularly, maybe she'd show up again before the courthouse appointment. Maybe they'd need to finalize signatures, prep paperwork, tie up their threads before cutting me loose. I called Shelley back. "I need you to track her, just for the next 24 hours. I think she's going to meet this Raymond guy again before Friday morning." Shelley hesitated. "That's risky. You could spook them. Let them get spooked. I need to know if I have one last window before they seal the trap." By that evening, Shelley had eyes on her. She called me just before 9 p.m. Miranda just pulled into a private parking structure off Lenmore Street. It's registered to the same fake real estate company. Raymond's car is already there. It's happening tonight. My chest tightened. Is there any chance I can intercept? Technically, no. But I'll look the other way if you're already in the area. 10 minutes later, I was sitting inside Brian's Jeep in the shadows of that parking structure, watching the two of them stand beside the BMW. Miranda was in a beige coat, heels, hair pinned up in the way she always did when she wanted to look important. Raymond leaned against the hood, flipping through a folder. Every now and then, she'd glance over her shoulder, as if checking for ghosts. I was one. They didn't see me. Not at first. They walked toward the elevator, still talking. Then Miranda stopped, turned, and looked directly at the Jeep. For a long moment, she just stood there. I didn't move, didn't blink. Then Raymond grabbed her elbow and nudged her inside the elevator. She didn't resist, but she looked rattled. That was the first time since this whole thing started that I saw it. Fear. It didn't last long, but it was there. I waited 10 minutes, then crept to where they had stood. I found the folder Raymond had been holding, left behind on the hood of the car. Maybe on purpose. Maybe by accident. Inside were printed copies of legal drafts, documents about financial restructuring, asset recovery, and more trust paperwork with my name on it. All unsigned. I took photos of every page. Then I ran. Back at Brian's apartment, I uploaded everything to a secured cloud backup, then printed one copy of each document. At the bottom of one sheet, written in pen, were 5 words. Final handoff. 9 a.m. sharp. Courthouse. This was it. I had 12 hours to decide who I was going to be when I walked through those doors. Victim? Pawn? Ghost? Or something else entirely? Friday arrived like a ticking bomb. I didn't sleep at all. I spent the night sitting on Brian's floor, surrounded by printouts, backup drives, and Miranda's second phone, the quiet weapon that had given me every answer I needed. At 6:12 a.m., I stood in front of the mirror, dressed in a wrinkled button-up and worn jeans, and told myself out loud, "You're not walking in there to beg. You're walking in there to win." Shelley called just before I left. "You sure you want to do this alone?" I paused. "No, but I have to. If I don't face her now, I'll never get myself back." The courthouse lobby was quieter than I expected. Just 2 security guards and a woman with a service dog filling out forms. The elevator creaked as it took me to the 3rd floor Civil Processing Division. I arrived outside room 314 at exactly 8:52 a.m. My hands were trembling. At 8:59, the hallway door opened behind me. Miranda walked in like a business deal on heels. Raymond followed, carrying the same navy folder I'd seen the night before. She didn't notice me at first, not until she looked up to check the courtroom number. Her face fell apart in 3 seconds flat. "Dennis." She stopped mid-step. Eyes widened, lips parted, pulse clearly visible in her neck. For once, she looked like the one without a plan. I stood calmly. "Going somewhere?" She recovered too quickly. "This is a legal consultation. You shouldn't be here." Raymond stepped between us, fake smile, polished tone. Sir, this is a private filing. If you don't have an appointment. I held up my own folder. Oh, but I do. From my inside pocket, I pulled out a notarized emergency motion to block any and all asset transfers related to the Thompson Trust, signed by a judge Shelley had contacted that morning. Along with it, a USB drive containing every recording, every bank log, every photo, a full forensic layout of Miranda's deception, all with timestamps and metadata. Raymond paled. Miranda looked like she'd just swallowed glass. You hacked me, she hissed. No, I said, voice quiet but firm. You handed me the truth on a silver phone. I just decided to finally read it. She glanced at Raymond. He looked at her. For once, neither had anything clever to say. When the clerk stepped out of the room and called, next appointment, I stepped forward. That's me, Dennis W. Thompson. And I'll be representing myself. The hearing was short. The judge reviewed the emergency motion, examined the evidence, and suspended all financial activity involving the trust until further investigation. Ulrich, exposed as an unlicensed consultant, was escorted out of the building. Miranda was issued a summons for fraud review. She didn't say a word to me as she left. No apology, no regret, just silence. And for the first time, I was fine with that. In the weeks that followed, things changed fast. I filed for divorce, froze all accounts, worked with Shelley and a real attorney to undo the damage and reclaim my identity. Some things couldn't be recovered, but most of it, I got back. And more importantly, I got me back. I moved into a small but quiet apartment near the coast, started running in the mornings, got hired full-time by a company that appreciated me, even rescued a dog from the shelter, named him Casper, because he sat by my side the first night like he knew I'd been invisible for too long. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment, when she looked at me like she'd seen a ghost, and I realized something. She didn't destroy me. She freed me, and I'll never let anyone erase me again.